I would briefly like to introduce the moderator for today's session. This is Catarina Cavallo. We've overlapped quite a lot, so it's lovely to see you here and invite you to the panel today. Catarina is from Lisbon, Portugal, where she's the founder of a local news company in Lisbon called Nenshagem, if I have that correct, nearly? Okay. And is a journalist and media specialist more broadly. She's the founder and editor of this project, but also comes from a background in national news. But I will leave the floor to you, Catarina, and it's great to have you. And thank you everyone for tuning in today. It's great to have you here. And remember, in 1 hour we'll have a coffee break, so we can pivot to that soon. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. So I don't know if we have some disruption in the room too. So okay. So the title, hello everybody, and thank you for having us and discussing. It's not only local, it's actually very much startup-y and changing things, what we are going to talk about. But starting by disrupting, and we will try to tackle this word, because to be disruptive or not is something that has to do with what we do, of course, but also to the changes that we operated in the media scene by doing what we do and by ourselves. So we thought, because this is all so much about big organizations and stuff, why don't we talk a little bit about what we also did as journalists, as people, and what did that change in our lives and the lives of people that surround us. Since we are talking about local, that is a lot what local does, like impact on people's lives. And we are going to try to talk a little bit about this. To be disruptors or not, what are we? Are we disruptives or not? Sometimes we feel that the only thing disruptive is our bank accounts when we get into these things. So yeah, that's all the things that we will try to tackle in this hour that we're going to discuss. And first of all, to introduce, we have with us by this order, Effie, I said it right, Effie Mariani. She's from Indonesia. We just discovered we had a lot in common, other than Portuguese words that are for unfortunate and fortunate reasons in the language of Indonesia. She's the executive director and co-founder of this project, Multatuli, always, it's very hard, all these T's, which is not only local, but it's mostly disruptive. So, especially considering what exists in the media in Indonesia. Then we have Zoltan Schipos, yeah. And he's the co-founder also and manager and everything else, and editor-in-chief in Atlatso Elderly. We've met each other quite for a while now. He's from Romania, but he leads the Hungarian, he'll explain a little bit better, in the Hungarian community of Romania. And then we have Isabela Moa, who is from Brazil. She's living in Europe. She leads Agência Moral for 13 years. And this is a media venture that works in the peripheries of São Paulo, right? I would like you first, because nobody, since we are local, nobody really knows a lot about us. I'll explain a little bit what Mensagem is and was, why it was founded, and then I'll get back to you so that you can explain a little bit more, and then we can go on from there. So Mensagem was created 2 years ago in the middle of the pandemic, like Project Multatuli, for the same reasons. Our newsroom, I was working in a very big, very old and important newspaper in Portugal. The administration decided to lay off half of the newsroom, and I left because I thought that was, a mistake. And I was fortunate enough to find an entrepreneur in Lisbon who wanted to fund something that could be of the communities of the city. So we are not a local in terms of what the local newspapers are normally. We don't do accidents, we don't do crime, we don't do that. We do communities, we do what people do. We call it everything that makes a city a town. And our motto is to enhance empathy through knowledge. So that means that if you know who you're talking to, maybe you won't have that much bias when talking to these people. So that's what we did. 2 years of of great projects and many prizes, awards and stuff. A team of 7 people, all in the newsroom, and we are heading to do other stuff in the city like art and stuff. But then I'll talk about that later. Evie, to you. That's yours. That's yours.
I think, okay, thank you, Katarina. I love that empathy through knowledge. That's great. I mean, like, I should have gone with that.
You can copy. You can copy.
Can I use it?
Yeah, you can use it.
Okay. So this is where I'm supposed to
Tell about your project.
introduction. Okay, a little bit introduction. So Project Multatuli is a public service journalism initiative. We started in 2021 in May, so it's been 2 years for us. We started with 7 people, and now we have like 18 full-time staff, which is like apparently the biggest among
Yes.
all 4 of us here. Now we have 18, and 7 in the editorial. The rest are in the team management, audience development, and sustainability division. I myself, like Katarina said, I work in legacy media, like the leading English newspaper in Indonesia called the Jakarta Post. And in 2020, they decided to cut 2/3 of the workforce, and exactly the same. I didn't like it at all. So I decided to resign and founded Project Multatuli. And it's like something, the past 2 years have been something that I wouldn't imagine at all, working at legacy media for almost 20 years, a very different kind of journalism, a very different kind of audience, experience, and it's like really opened up a lot about how we should do journalism, how the journalism that I knew was actually already kind of part of a problem. So that's what we do. So Project Multatuli, we came to disrupt. We came to disrupt the dominant practices of Indonesian media industry, which is male-centric, Jakarta-centric. We are a population of 280 million people, but the news are like very Jakarta-centric. And more elite-serving than serving the people. So our tagline is serving the underreported and holding power accountable. I think that's for the brief introduction. Thank you.
Hi. Hi. Okay. Thank you for having me. My name is Zoltán Sipos. I'm a journalist, Hungarian journalist coming from Romania. I am the editor-in-chief and founder and manager of a small investigative media outlet called Átlátszó Erdély. You will never remember this name because it is in Hungarian. It is called, the translation is Transparent Transylvania. So how did I get here? I've been a journalist for more than 20 years now. I started working back then as a student at a very small startup which grew to become the largest internet news portal of the Hungarian community living in Romania. At a certain point I became the editor-in-chief of this team, and well, the problem started when this project called Transindex was purchased by a politician. I don't want to get into details. I resigned a few years later and found that basically nobody wants to employ me, nobody wants to work with me. Because of I have this past of conflict with the main political party as an editor-in-chief. So I felt that I want to continue to work as a journalist. So the only way of doing that was founding my own project, which is Átlátszó. We are investigative journalists. We don't do news, and we are focusing on this 1.2 million Hungarian community living in the western part of Romania. You would wonder, okay, but why is this community interesting? It is a bit more difficult to work in this environment, even compared to Romania, which is also not a very easy country to practice journalism because this community is more conservative. It is a close community where progressive ideas such as press freedom, checks and balances in a democracy, and so on are simply, not even the concept exists. For example, when we started and people didn't know us, what we do, they would ask us, okay, but like, who is your boss? Who is paying the bills? And we were saying, no, we are an NGO, we are a cooperative of journalists. Like, we own this project. And basically nobody really believed us because in this community, the norm is that every media outlet has a politician, somebody or a wealthy investor with his goals and aims behind it. So we had to work quite a lot to build this reputation and to explain to our readers that no, like, we don't have this shadowy owner who likes to play the games.
Isa.
So hello, thanks. Hello, everybody. So yeah, I'm Isa. I have been a journalist for almost 30 years now. I'm the oldest one in the panel. Emurao is also one of the oldest organizations here, sitting here. But like, we are old when we launched it as a blog in 2010. But we worked for almost 10 years without any funding. So we are old in our mission and our work, but as a formal organization, we were founded in 2018. So we cover, so I was based in São Paulo and I worked for the largest newspaper in São Paulo, and I soon realized we are not covering 85% of the territory. Like, São Paulo is the largest metropolitan area now. A few years ago it was from South America. Now we just passed Mexico City, so we are the largest in Latin America. So it's 39 cities, 21 million people, and 85% coming from low-income communities. So that's what our organization does. It covers with 20 people in the press room. But I learned from Effie that it's not very smart to have the ratio that we have between business and newsroom. So I'm thinking about learning from you because the majority of our people are in the newsroom. And we work with also a network of 70 local correspondents that are based in the communities that they cover. And we are also an NGO, but I also want to learn from Zoltan about being a cooperative because it might be the future. And that's how we do it. And we have been covering those areas since 2010. So that's how we are right now.
Yeah, you three kind of touched a very important thing, which is, for me, asking you after that, why are you doing what you're doing? Because it's hard. You all stated difficulties, There's not much money involved, so that part is also, we're going to speak a bit about that more in deep in the next questions. So like, what really makes you going, and why why are you doing this? Why did you decide to do this? Is it a means? Is it a consequence? Is it an appeal? Is it a mission? What is it?
Okay. It's like, I think we are all journalists and we cannot do anything else, right? I think, well, at least that's my life. Like, I don't, and living in a city that is very, very unequal, like, I couldn't see myself, like, not doing what is right, meaning, like, if I'm a proper journalist, I will want to tell the stories of this big city as it is, and I saw the missing parts.
Can you explain a bit why doesn't the media cover that?
Well, we don't.
Big newspapers in São Paulo, right?
Yeah, so it's like we always think of low-income and underprivileged communities as the minority. So I think we didn't realize, as journalists, coming from where we came from, as Shiris pointed out yesterday, it's like we look at the others as the other ones. So the press room was full of people that were looking at those majority, at this majority as the other ones, and they are outside the political and the economic decision-making centers. So there is not a market in those underprivileged communities. But if we do that, we simply do not comply with the journalism mission, right? So,
yeah, Effie, it's kind of the same like what you were talking about when we talked yesterday. Why couldn't Jakarta Post cover these communities that you decided to cover, and that's why they are called underrepresented?
Yeah, I feel like I just found friends here. A very similar trajectory of life, I think. Working in legacy media for like more than 1 decade and finding it problematic, and then going on to set up our own media. And despite the disruption in the bank accounts, we keep doing it because for myself, I mean, for me personally, when I started Project Multatuli, I realized that I have to unlearn a lot of stuff. So the past 2 years has been unlearning and learning curves for me, that the journalism that I had believed in for almost 20 years was, again, part of the problem.
Why?
I was
Why?
part of the problem.
But why?
It's more like, so the Jakarta Post, I will sound like very like bitter, but no, it's not bitter at all. It's not bitter like as in a personal way, but more like realizing that the Jakarta Post, English daily newspaper in a country that mostly speaking Indonesian, not speaking English, very elite. Very elite, and at the time I was like, my first conflict was when I wrote about forced evictions of urban poor, like almost the same, like Sao Paulo, Jakarta, a lot of urban poor, very underreported by mainstream media, legacy media. So that was my first conflict with the other editors. And then when I decided to resign.
Why was the conflict? Because you wanted to cover it?
That is like drop the forced evictions, call it relocation. I said, no, it's forced evictions. It's really with all the violence and human rights violations before my eyes. Because even though I was already an editor, but at one point, a lot of forced evictions at the time, at one point, okay, I need to go to the field myself. So that was what I witnessed. So I said, no relocation, forced eviction. So that was like the first conflict going on for years later. So, yeah, for me, it's like there's a huge news desert I didn't realize. For me, what is the most important, what you call it, like zeitgeist or whatever, yeah, for journalism to do? Like why do you become and remain a journalist? I see that in past 5 years and in the next 5 years, our main problem is socio-economic inequality and environmental destruction. And the legacy media, not only the Jakarta Post, in Indonesia, is doing nothing about it. It's doing nothing about it. And so Project Multatuli, we established it as a self-criticism against journalism, against myself. I mean, I had to disrupt myself. Not just my bank account, but this, like, yeah, this all in my head, like objectivity. What is journalism? What is objectivity? Objectivity is apparently a set of principles established by those in power.
Don't you
right?
hate that phrase that media usually, and in these conferences we hear a lot, which is give a voice to the voiceless? Isn't it just so not true? Like everybody has a voice, it's just not, we are not hearing that voice when we are working in traditional media.
Yeah, I sometimes use that, but I realize it's actually, you're right, it's not right, it's incorrect. So they have indeed a voice. We just need to amplify the voice. And that's actually very easy to do as a journalist. It's just that our business model in the media industry, in capitalistic media industry, the business model doesn't allow us to amplify their
Because
voice.
these people are not markets. Zoltan, can you monetize this? You were talking about this relationship with your community, and this is why you are doing this, like not only because you were despised by everybody else, but also because it's your mission. Can you live on them? Can you?
I have a very short answer to this. No.
No.
No, it's Atlas Verde is funded partly of reader donations, but also international journalism grants. And our reader donations are increasing basically every year, but the rate of this increase is like very slow. So my answer is no. At this point, we are very far away from being funded by our readers.
Yeah, and getting back to the first question, why do you do it? Why do you still do it? Why do you struggle? Why do you fight?
This is just like Isa and Efa, like being a journalist is a way of life. It is not a job. It is a very specific way of thinking, and at this point, I don't really see myself anything else but a journalist.
What are you mostly proud of when you think about the people you are working with, and not for, but with? What's your best? Do you say proud? I have a. Why are you mostly proud of?
Like we have like many small successes or even bigger successes, but the greatest success for me is that this project Atlas Verde still exists after 7 years, and it not only exists, but we managed to grow in a very, like, I would not say hostile, like openly hostile environment, but in an environment that does everything not to help us. So basically, we started from zero. Our first budget was about 2,000 euros. And now we are at about 120,000 euros in budget, and we are a team of 5 to 6 people. And like when I'm looking back, like this is a huge pride for me. Atlas Verde is my child.
Zoltan, just let me clarify something. When you say the environment is against you, what are you talking about?
It is very difficult to pinpoint what is the problem.
But it's not the community you're working with. It's the rest of the country. It's the opposition. It's what?
I would, like, we are talking about when we want to describe this attitude we are feeling. We talk about the deafening silence. So basically, people are doing everything to ignore you. And it is so hard to kind of breach that wall. You don't get invitation to the press conference. Politicians and mayors will not respond to any of your questions. Many locals will not answer to your questions. Sometimes they will say that, like, we are not happy of you being here, please leave. They are doing everything to make our job harder.
So it's the establishment.
Establishment, but also the people who can be reached by the establishment, and they are afraid of talking to us.
Okay. Yeah. Back to brighter sides of life, Lisa. What are you most proud of in your community?
I think. Okay, I'm the only professional journalist that came from the legacy in our team, in our full-time team of 20 people, and the whole network of local correspondents.
Where does the rest come from?
Yeah, they are all young professionals that still live in the areas that we cover. So 100% of the organization is run, apart from me, that I am the executive director, they are all coming from the communities they are covering. So I think what I'm most proud of is that for many years we were discredited as like we are not doing a professional journalist just because, and they are all like first generation college graduated, so they have the training of being a journalist. It's simply because of their origins that they couldn't find like a market for exercise it. So for many years we were discredited as, like the labels as citizen journalists, community journalists, and say like you're practicing a lower quality journalism, or you're not even practicing journalism or anything. So, but now we are at a point that we get invited to a press conference. So everybody wants to hear, not everybody, and not all the time, but we do get invitations alongside the big media groups. So we are still, the underdog running, in these meetings, but at least we are now recognized as practicing good professional journalists. So we are in the game.
Yeah, so you were talking about that, and I was thinking, what's the reaction of the people you are working to? Like, how do you measure success in the communities you are working for, in those peripheral cities and neighborhoods?
We have, we register what we call impact, all the impacts that we make, and we have like 5 categories, and we have a very consistent way of registering it. So it's like a culture it's linked to the mission, and the mission says, coming from those communities before, the only 2 ways you could live in those communities was either you would be blindedly proud of coming from there because it lacks everything, but okay, I say I'm from there and I'm from the ghetto and I'm proud of that, and then you have this attitude. Or the first thing you think of is you leave it, so the first opportunity the life gives you to live it, you leave it. In Mural, the narrative is, it's not the 2 ways, or actually we preach about a third way of looking at it is like transforming it. Like it's part of the city as any other neighborhood. So what you do is like the journalism you do is not only to empower the people that live in, but to make the local government accountable, to make visible everything that is not correct. So we are dealing daily with inequality and talking about it and clarifying it, not only, but like we tell good stories too, but it's all about thinking about how information is needed and how it should be shared as a public good and how it really informs and gives you access to the city, to the community, and to your rights. So,
yeah. So back to you.
That was like listening to it. So it's like really great.
About what makes you most proud, and how do you measure success in the community that you're working with?
Yeah. Can I
Tease.
mention numbers so I will sound better? So yeah, there are two things I'm the most proud of. The first is like we managed to disrupt, at least in the sense of like from, this is like my eyes, 224 stories and opinions we published in 2021 and 2022. Almost half, like almost 50% had main sources women and non-binary. And that's like way above the industry benchmark, which is 11%. As I said, it's actually the easiest part of disruption. Yeah, the Jakarta-centric part is a little harder. Besides gender, we also have our main sources about 13% indigenous people, and that's like way. I'm sure it's way above industry benchmark, because almost zero, I'm pretty sure, in mainstream media. So that's one thing I'm most proud of. The second one is we're running a membership program, so we're trying to diversify our revenue, right? So our members now cover 5% to 10% of our total operational expenses, but it's not just the number. That's why I think that empathy through knowledge is really great, because that's what I found after establishing, founding Project Multatuli, is that a lot of readers out there, not most readers, but a lot, are have a high intellectual curiosity and have high empathy, and that's what I call never imagined journalism can be like that.
You mean that they give to the project?
They give to the project, but also they give to the sources, the new sources. Because, for example, there's this, we told a story about three preschool teachers in Kalimantan, in Borneo, that hasn't been getting any salaries, but they keep doing what they've been doing. And a lot of readers say, can we help? Can we send money to this person? So we cooperated with a sort of like a charity crowdfunding platform, and we raised maybe 1,500 euros, I think, about like. So they're very generous, high empathy, high intellectual curiosity, and it's unthinkable. If I still at the legacy media, I wouldn't ever think that we can have readers like that. You know?
Yeah, one of the things that Mensagem that we measure our impact on is the copycats. Like now, this is good and it's bad. It's like the big media in Portugal are trying to do projects like us, like community media and immigration media and everything else. And this leads me to the next question, which is, we are in a conference that's, it crosses many audiences. It crosses big media and the independent media. That's why we have the conference and the festival. How do you see this? How do you see, first, why don't they do it? Like, why? And I'm saying them because it's really them, because we left those shoes. We are in another shoes, like Chirish said. So yeah. So why don't big media do it? And if they start to do it, would you be proud of that, or would you be mad at that? Because you started at Folha, Isabella.
Yeah. So we have.
Can you explain a little bit more about that?
We started when we started. We were like a blog in the newspaper that I use to work. So I started is still being an editor there and running the project. And in the beginning, we exchanged exclusive content for the hosting, of our blog. So I think legacy media is learning, but of course, they know there is no money in there, first of all. Secondly,
No money in the community.
yes, in the market. Second, I think they also live their the economic crisis of the business model. So, the newsroom that I used to work for, we had at one point, at like the biggest time, we had like 700 journalists, and when I left, it was about 200 journalists. So that's how also, of course, so if you have to go to those communities and you don't have context and what you cover is the big facts, right? It's crime and it's something that a PR agency sends to you, and then you quickly can write a story. So so you have lack of resources, human resources also, and lack of interest, of course. But I think that's it, more or less, if I answered.
Yeah. Sultan.
I have a very vivid memory. Once back at Transindex, this very big news portal owned by the main political party, I broke a quite important story about possible illegal political financing of the political opponents of the owners. And I thought that I actually I did something great, and it turned out that the owners were very unhappy about this story because they realized that this guy who never listens to us basically has the capability of going after the finances of a political party, and they knew that they were coming. So it's when I was working at this media outlet, it was kind of this golden cage feeling, like you were supposed to do the stories that looked nice, but you were not supposed to kind of write the really important stories. And the owners and my chiefs were very worried because of me, because I didn't really understand these very fine lines between what can be done and what cannot be done.
Which were not like real rules.
Yes, these rules were never clear, so we never had these rules written actually, but people could feel it. What is right and what is wrong in this context.
So you would say that it's not a possibility that they would copy what you're doing or anything like that, or they would start to appeal to other communities in order to grow or something?
No, in this community, most journalists who are working for legacy media are basically doing PR, because that was we were doing before. Not at Átlátszó RT, but at Transindex. So basically, we kind of filled these pages with stuff that were nice, looked nice, but were not actually the real story.
Journalism, yeah. Effie, you were saying that there's a big crisis in the media, of course in Indonesia as elsewhere, otherwise we would all move there, because if there would be no crisis, we would go to that paradise, but it's not like that as such. So if you're having success and if you're broadening your audience, if you're talking to other people, why don't they do it? Why is that not a question? And if they do it, how would you feel?
I mean, why don't other journalists do what we do? I think it's because of the business models. It's about how they get money from. So in Indonesia, just a little bit of context. In Indonesia, in 2019, the press council found that there were about 43,000 digital media outlets in Indonesia. So we are just like one among 43,000. So we have to set,
43,000.
yeah. So we have to set ourselves apart, yeah, business-wise, competition-wise. So we do slow journalism. We do underreported stories going far, far away and very costly. Very costly. We only publish like 3 to 4 or 5 times a week. We don't measure our success with page views, which is like very different with what the others are doing. They do page views. They do 10 links per day per person. Could be like up to like 100 links a day. Very short. One source only. Usually male, middle-aged, from Jakarta, usually. So what we do is, from among the 43,000, I can safely say, I'm confident to say that we're almost like the only one that's kind of like have enough audacity to do this. But the business model in page views create paradox. Like there's one information clutter, but a huge news desert, right? So, yeah, just like one of our most impactful stories is about online shopping careers. Are you familiar with that? So you do online shoppings, right? And there like will be somebody, couriers, like somebody will just knock on your door. Yeah. And in Indonesia, it's like very like a growth, exponential growth of online shopping in urban areas. People will, like couriers will knock on your people's doors 3 times a day sometimes, packet, packet.
Packets.
But no one knows they have a poor working condition, and no media outlets want to do extensive story on them because the online shopping outlets, also the courier platforms, they are like big advertisers. They're big advertisers, so they don't tell that kind of stories. So one of our reporters decided to, okay, let me go to become a courier for 2 weeks. I was like, seriously? But okay, fine. So he went on becoming really like a courier for 2 weeks, and then came up with 11,000 word report on that, and I was like, okay, I would never have let him do that if it was at the legacy media. First 2 weeks mean 12 to 28 stories, right, from him, right? There's no way. It's like not breaking the point, right? And then 11,000 words. There's no way. There's no 11,000 words. So when he came up with 11,000 words, we were like, okay, just publish it. 5 people, 10 people read it, it's okay. Apparently,
How many people read it?
almost like 200,000 now. 200,000 read it, mostly young people.
So that's what I mean.
Which is,
If the other media learn that lesson, maybe they will start to change.
Yes, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a few minutes. We want to leave some space to the room to ask some questions. Let's talk about money. Money is, it's a business. This is also a business, as you said. It's a way of life. It's a mission, but it's also you have to eat, right, and drink, and have a house, at least. What would you? Let's imagine we are in. This is a magician's show, and you could do something to change the way things are. What would you do to make your business sustainable in the next few years?
Okay. I would find the Aladdin lamp and just make 3 wishes. We have been, it's always fragile. We never know if we're going to survive the next year. So that's how we have been going. The only thing we know is if we don't economically exist, that we're still going to do what we do. I don't know how. But what besides diversifying, revenue streams, as we know, it's the best way out. We are going to tried to invest in what we call, in our case, the collateral audience, because we write about and with and for those communities that we cover. Of course, everybody benefits from it, because then you have a real understanding of what's going on in this great, enormous metropolitan area of 21 million people.
Because actually the news desert is not there. It's the connection that doesn't exist, right?
Well, yeah, and there is the news desert too, because like there's a huge information gap. Like they don't know what what is going on.
But the other part, the asphalt city, also doesn't know what happens in that part of the city.
Yes, so we get, like, for example, we know, so we are trying to get, put together a membership campaign that is going to get individual donors from the center, from this 15% of the population that could at least help us support. And my dreamland, like, we would rely on them at least in a large and larger part. We're still very far from there. We have like 40 donors, but that's one of the objectives, is to arrive at 400 this year. Let's see if we can get there.
Yeah, Zoltan.
That is a very nice question. Thank you.
It's so cynical.
I am trying to think about things that are not actually fantasy. So I try to remain on the ground of actual possibilities. One thing I would like to have is to increase the share of reader revenue to at least 30, 40, maybe even 50%. That would be really nice. And it would be like a huge relief for me. It would be very nice if we discovered the third revenue source, because I know that everybody is talking about 3 revenue sources are the safest way. Actually, we only have 2, and we were exploring all kinds of alternatives.
But the second is grants, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So we really need the third thing that actually works, and it doesn't put a very much burden on this very small team. And the third thing is we want to break away from Facebook. And we've been exploring all kinds of alternatives, from pop-up newsrooms to newsletters, and we would like to grow this into something we do every day, not only these experiments. It's just.
Effie. I know that you have already a very diversified revenues.
Not very, just 3. I'm trying because you know why I tried. So I want to ask Zoltan, when donors give you grants, did they ask you how do you propose to be sustainable? Because we'll only be with you 5 years if you're lucky.
Yes,
something
and we
like
always answer very openly. We don't know. At this point, we are not sustainable. We know that the reader revenues are growing, and we will be sustainable at a certain point. But it will not happen in 3 months or 4 months.
So
the length of one grant, it will not happen.
So it was good for me that the donors asked me that. So okay, we'll give you money for the first year, but top 5 years. Okay, after that, what would you do? It's okay. So reader revenue, but reader revenue is very challenging, right? I mean, same challenge.
Especially covering this kind of community.
Exactly, especially covering, yes. So donors now currently 5 to 10% reader revenue, 45% donors who will stay with us only for 5 years. So, and the third one, I had to think very hard in the beginning. So I was thinking, okay, so we have this network of, so we also work with a lot of correspondents. We so far have worked with 100 across the country, 100 journalists, filmmakers, videographers, writers, researchers, artists, yeah, like illustrators, in almost 34 provinces in Indonesia. So I was like, this is highly skilled content creators. Why don't I sell their skill with some profit, and then the profit goes to the public journalism, right? So I was thinking, okay, just do packages of content and like communication consultant and content creation, and sell it to organizations that in line with our vision, because we have a very strict serving the underreported, so we cannot go to corporates for that, right? If we go to corporates, it's also like, you know, annual reports for the sustainability reports, big money in that, but we are not going there because we have our negative list. So we are thinking, okay, in Indonesia, there's a lot of organizations doing like human rights, climate change, environmental, digital rights and whatever, and they have this communication, communication money, like money for communication. And sometimes there are activists who cannot handle social media, who cannot write properly, who cannot write press releases, cannot make films or whatever. So we offer packages of service to them.
The same people, like it's the same journalists that...
No, we harness our network as well. So freelancers, we contact a lot of freelancers.
Okay.
So we sort of like make open up a menu, pay us this for event organizing, trainings, filmmaking, video. We even made memes for a campaign.
Yeah. How much is that in your budget?
Yeah.
45%.
Oh, that's
a lot already. That's.
And I just have one question because I'm interested in that too. So it's you charge like as the agencies for the freelancers. So they are not really.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we recruit the freelancers.
You have like a spread.
Yeah. But I pay them very decently. Yeah. So I don't want to hustle our friends, right? So we try to pay very decently, but we also charge in a way. This is like where you have to be really careful how much you charge to make profit, to pay people decently, but not to burden, because this is also organizations that rely on philanthropy, right? So we really have to like.
But it burdens the management and the administration, right? It's more work for you.
Yes.
That's also why you grew. That's also why you grew the company besides the newsroom, right?
Yeah, I'm not really a journalist, just a quarter of journalist. Yeah.
As everybody else, yeah. So questions and doubts, yeah, many. Okay.
3.
5 minutes, yes. 5 minutes. Be brief, please. I think it's. No, but there's. Oh, okay. Sorry.
I will pass.
Go ahead. Okay. No. Go ahead. Not lose my time.
Yeah, my name is Roman Stepanovich, and I'm actually in the same position that you are. I'm from Ukraine, and I'm co-founder and exec for Ukrainian media. And talking about revenues, and you talk a lot on relying on your audience to support you and grow this. And there was a huge call from investors and from donors back in days that we should grow that part. And we actually did it. But when some crisis happens in your country, let's say like war with Russia, or I don't know, like climate change, I don't know, like tsunami, whatever, like bad things, you automatically don't have that money. That money, it becomes a huge gap. That's what Ukrainian media are facing right now. And so whom you can rely? Do you have like a plan B? Because we haven't. We had not. And that's a huge problem. And of course, I guess Evie, she has mentioned that like you don't want to work with local businesses and corporate sector.
Just corporates. Local business is okay.
Yeah, but local business, it's small and it's really hard to, you know, it's like very diversified. So like, I guess the best donor is like donor with money, but local who understand what is happening, and you need to do what you have to do. So what is your plan B in case of such scenarios? Thank you.
Thank you. We don't really have a plan B. We do have, and like actually, like we are extremely lucky that like we have some reserves. So basically, we have enough money to operate for about 3, 4, maybe 5 months. Like every revenue stopped at this moment, we would be able to work for a couple of months more. And we agreed with our partners, like we are an association where the partners are actually the journalists. Like we will access this fund only in emergency, and that's it basically.
I don't know if I can call this plan B. So my plan is, if we no longer have enough money to run, just like die peacefully, you know, as long as is that plan B? Die peacefully, and in my mind was just the first thing I have to secure is none of us, not me, not the chief editor, not the managing editor, has to sell their assets to pay for the severance, right? No debt collectors chasing us. That's it. I think that's enough for us.
I think there, yeah, and then here, yeah.
Yes. Hi, I'm Paula Miralha from Brazil, and I have a media startup, which is different from yours, but I share some of your challenges. My questions are, first, how do you deal with reach, which is a challenge even for big organizations? How do you distribute your content? How you make sure it's getting to the people that need to read it? And then a more broader question is like, where do you think you're promoting change? Is the change you're promoting related to the people who work in your organization, the communities you serve, or the industry itself who can learn from what you do, or from the broader society who is finally reading the stories they weren't before?
I think I kind of answered that part, right? The change. Yeah. The change is for you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just because I know Paula, and it's like, I think it's all of those, but it's actually real, what we call, in one of the categories that we register as impact, we actually have one that is called real life change. It means like if we write about a road that is not being done, or if there's something that the public service didn't do, after our story it's actually done. Like if there is like a hospital that needed like more doctors or nurses, and we do a story and we do a follow-up, and then actually it comes the change. So we keep track of that on that too. And we have a second one that is called about the copycat, and our stories get to be republished, and our professionals get to be hired somewhere else, and that changed the narrative of legacy media too.
Yeah, and about the reach, I think everybody's on Instagram, Facebook.
Social media. Meet them where they are.
Yeah.
It's like social media, live events, everywhere.
Yeah, sorry, we need to. There's one more question, just very quick. Sorry, Paula. I think we can speak after. Sorry.
Maybe
okay.
maybe I can catch up with Isabella afterwards, because I'm interested in those impact categories. So.
Okay.
Just shortly, do you have any trust in the future in public funding? I'm referring to, in US, what's called government funding, but traditionally in Europe we call it public. And I think this could be third revenue source that Zoltan talked.
There's no public funding in Portugal. That's one of the biggest problems in independent media.
During the pandemic, there was some sort of public funding in Romania. Basically, media outlets got to, like the government was running like all sorts of campaign for mask, whatever, vaccination, and it turned out like really bad because the only thing they measured was audience. So basically, all these media outlets that were otherwise very skeptical about vaccines and so they were running actually the government ads, and they were getting the most of the money. So that is how public funding in Romania works.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
And
Yeah, no, because public money, government treats public money as it's government money, like their
Okay.
personal money.
And in Brazil, there's a big discussion right now about regulation of the big platforms and how that could turn out as public policy that will drive some of the money to independent media, but it's still like a lot of questions going around that.
Yeah, we discussed that a little bit, and we all of us, we think that public funding can even be more transparent than the donations from foundations, but that doesn't exist in the south of Europe. So thank you very much, everybody, and hope it was useful.